Oh, we are back. It is me and Jerry. Trevor snowed in, after the foot of snow that we have here. It's been snowing here like crazy. Jerry, I know you're in Chicago. Now you're back in St. Louis. Any snow down there?
Not as much down here in St. Louis, but Chicago obviously got hit. Not to the same degree as you guys, but pretty close. Luckily, not the Indiana, Illinois Department of Transportation knows how to clear roads. So clear ride back. Busy day back here, but dude, busy day in personal life and a busy day of news. We got a lot to get through.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about these firings. The hirings have now, come about. They're now filling up pretty quickly. We had one open up today that I didn't expect to open up. Creepy photo says, "Gents, glad to see you boys." Of course. So yeah, I mean, look, the big one here, the one that we've all kind of been waiting for, the one that we think, oh, is it going to happen? What's it going to do? It took forever. It was delayed by the Iron Bowl, and then it was delayed by I don't know what it was this morning. But Lane Kiffin is officially the head coach of LSU football. Just a crazy thing that has happened. All right, Jerry, I'll go through the time events and then we'll talk about it. So a couple weeks ago, Old Miss wanted Lane to make a decision between them or LSU this weekend. It was supposed to be Saturday, we thought. Then it turned out to be today. Friday, Ole Miss beat Mississippi State 38-19 in the Egg Bowl. He had said that he had not made his decision as of yet. Saturday, him and AD Keith Carter met and talked, and then the decision got delayed by the Iron Bowl because if Alabama loses, then Ole Miss would have been in, and I think he probably would have coached this weekend. With all that being said, and then a meeting was set for today at 9 a.m. Well, that thing got pushed back to 1, and then it concluded with Lane not ending up in the meeting. He was told not to by Keith Carter. He said that in his interview with Marty Smith. And then he posted this statement. After a lot of prayer and time spent with family, I made the difficult decision to accept the head coaching position at LSU. I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on this team's incredible success and their commitment to finish strong, and investing everything into a playoff run in place to protect the program in areas of concern. My request to do so was denied by Keith Carter, despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high level of performance. Unfortunately, that means Friday's Egg Bowl was my last game coaching the Rebels. While I'm looking forward to a new start with a unique opportunity at LSU, I will forever cherish the incredible 6 years I spent at Ole Miss and will be rooting hard for the team to complete their mission and bring a championship to Oxford. I mean, it got messy real quick, I will say, because then there was the supposed reports that he told coaches, if you're not on the plane with me, then you're not coming with me at all. And it looks like I think there's like 4 coaches going. Charlie Weiss Jr., the offense coordinator, looked like he was getting on the plane, and was. I will say too, their departure from the airport was hilarious.
This whole thing, when we joke around about it, means more, and this is college football. This is kind of where it peaks. So like this is even flight tracking crazy. This is just one man holding the fate, and now 2 but 3 programs for months, and now finally making that decision. But it is one that I fear will have repercussions far lasting the records of either of these schools.
Yeah.
This, in my mind, in some degree, has invalidated the level of the playoff and how important the playoff is in a way that's going to hurt this sport a lot. This was bound to happen at some point where we're going to have a coach leave their current school that's in the playoff to probably fish a bigger job. And honestly, this might not be the only one. We are looking at John Summerall possibly going to Florida. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed. Again, been on the road all day, so bear with my lack of knowledge. But like Summerall, it was going to almost be this example if he takes the Florida job and then Tulane is in the college football playoff. We now have that times 10 because Ole Miss is a fellow SEC school that's supposed to have everything else, maybe not the exact money, right, or the prestige, etc. But this is a guaranteed in SEC school that's going to be in the playoff that just lost their head coach to a team that's not in the playoff. That is a wide level of rating. Like the implication, this is not just a Lane Kiffin thing. And I get it. There's been the, I don't even say propaganda, but this is the timeline and all this. And there's a valid point to be made here. It's something that we'll probably talk about as we continue to talk about Lane Kiffin, that the The timeline in the sport, the calendar in the sport is messed up. That does not mean what Lane just decided to do is not inherently problematic, because it is just told an SEC school that it is not a big enough time school like LSU. And for the people who worry about this sport becoming less and less regional, this is the type of stuff they'll point to. And this is a moment, if you look at future realignment, that could actually set a precedent, because Ole Miss has done everything right, which is weird for me to say. Ole Miss historically does not do things the right way. But for them to stand on the line and say, no, we will not let you coach us, while also actively working for one of our rivals. I get it. The Ole Miss LSU rivalry is not like the biggest one in the sport. It exists. This isn't a, now I don't remember if it's a trophy game off the top of my head, but still is considered an actual rivalry. But for one SEC school to big time another tells you how many levels there are to the sport, and that this level just became that much more apparent. And in return, an SEC school, if this happens in the Big Ten, I had the same conversation. I want to make that clear, right? But a current SEC coach said this is not enough, and has now set a precedent in the sport that the playoff does not mean enough. We are getting closer and closer to kids starting to opt out from the playoff, and us having a real question on if it's a valid way to determine a champion in the sport. Because it started the same way when coaches left for bowl games, and they left before. Oh, it's a bowl game. It doesn't matter. That's fine. The coaching carousel still spins. Then the kids started opting out because they said, well, it doesn't matter to them. Why does it matter to us? We're getting closer to that. Because, and I don't blame Ole Miss for not letting him coach this out. Because, again, this is a direct rival, direct in-conference foe, and he's trying to have his cake and eat it. If you're going to leave, you're going to leave. And that's where a lot of this got messy. As you kind of went through that timeline, part of the problem here is that I think Lane Kiffin got tired of the fact that he could not have it both ways. And that should not, I'm not defending him for that. He should not be able to have it both ways. Stay with your team. You're in the playoff. You are 11-1. You're in one of the two big boy conferences. What else do you want? That's kind of my question. And I get it. LSU is one of those premier jobs and all these things. But it does bring up this point of like, what else are you supposed to do if you're Ole Miss? Like, there's a real question here. They win one more game. They've made the playoff. They're in, right? They have a record-breaking season. They've put all this money towards it. What else do you expect? Like, that's my question here. And I will not take that this is just Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin. Because if Lane Kiffin does it, other coaches have now the ability and feel that they can. So I worry about this long-term having a wide-ranging impact, including, again, you have an 11-1 team that's going to get downgraded because their head coach left. And he just told you that even the playoff was not enough.
Yeah.
The glory of the sport, the thing you're supposed to care about, was not enough.
Well, it also shows what he really thought about the team and if they could win the national title. Because if he truly believed that they could win the national title and go and win it all, he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave yet. He'd tell LSU, hey, you're going to have to wait. I'm going to have to hang out with this team. I'm going to stay. We're going to do what we can do. This shows right here. He's like, yeah, okay, we're going to be maybe win the first round, but, not get past the second round. I think that's what it shows. But I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that it puts coaches in such a weird position. But then, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, look, what do you really want? Do you want to really finish this out, or do you want to go somewhere else? And yeah, I mean, if you're Ole Miss, you look at it and you go, I think if it was any other school, not maybe in the SEC, maybe they'd have a better thing. Like, okay, like we'll let you coach and you can do it too. But it's LSU. They're hurt right now. They believe like, look, we're giving you everything that you wanted that they're going to give you. Why would you leave? And I think it's one of those things where it's like, dude, does he believe that we can win if he stays here or not? So I don't know. I just think it's funny that the last two coaches to go to LSU left their schools because they thought that they couldn't win national titles or compete. And Brian Kelly, I think, was like 2 seeds away with the Notre Dame team that he was on for the 4-team playoff. And Lane Kiffin's in the playoff, but he still thinks that he needs to go to LSU. So I don't know what LSU has that we don't know about, but clearly they have things. And I know he's landed in Baton Rouge now at this point. He put his hand out the window when he drove by the fans, all excited. He's already met with, I think his name's Lamar Brown. Yeah, Lamar Brown, number 2 overall recruit. He's from Baton Rouge, so he's staying on regardless. I don't know the Marty Smith interview to me that they had on the tarmac, which is funny that he had an interview on the tarmac. Um, he basically threw Keith Carter under the bus and was like, he didn't want me to show up to the team meeting. He didn't want me there. He told me not to come. Like, he's trying to get out of it the best way he can. It just hasn't worked out. And yet again, it's just one of those things with Lane. Everywhere he goes, it's a soap opera.
Well, that's
Everywhere
the
he
thing.
goes.
Keith Carter's not getting out of anything.
No.
Keith Carter, I think, has honestly handled this the way you can, like the best way in this situation, because and like Ole Miss it's not just Ole Miss. If I put this hypothetical, let's say Rutgers just figures it out this next year, and then Michigan comes calling, 2 levels of the sport, right? I think we think Michigan's a very good program. Rutgers a little bit lower level, even though they're the birthplace of college football. I understand, but and then Rutgers coach left for Michigan, we'd have the same outrage. This is not. I don't even know, and it does not help the fact that Ole Miss LSU has a level of rivalry here. For LSU, you just reminded folks how big of a deal this place is. Yeah. Yes, there is a certain level of this. You're king of the world right now, which is great, but I worry about this damage so much more long term. But if I'm Keith Carter, I'm not making him. I'm not keeping him around. What does that send? Because he actively will be at that time recruiting for your rival while also taking advantage and benefiting from your program.
Yeah, and probably taking kids from your team.
There's kids. There's going to be a transfer portal exist to some degree at Ole Miss. I know Pete Golding. We'll talk more about hires too, but this does matter in this context. Pete Golding is supposed to be the guy stepping in and staying there, not just interim. But it's Pete Golding will keep a couple of them. He's not going to keep all of them.
No, because you're going to tell me that Kwan Lacey's not going to follow Lane Kiffin.
I mean, he can go back to Missouri if he wants. But you want to make the best back room in the country. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't be pitching, but it's the funniest thing about all this to me is that Lane Kiffin all year, all this was, I'm a changed man. I'm a different man. And there's some things about Lane Kiffin that have changed. I want to make that very clear. But he put out that ESPN documentary showing the insides. Look at all this and that. He got mad at that reporter, and there's a fair level of someone who works in the news industry and understands, if you say something that's not just critical, but is kind of on that borderline, you do show up to the press conference, and if you get chewed out, that's fair. You wrote that out. It's public. It is public. If it's not taken the right way or it's taking offense to some,
part of the job.
It is. It really is. And that reporter kind of getting chewed out for it, that is legitimately part of this. That happens in press conferences. That happens in interviews. That's not as crazy as you would think. It was just great because it was caught on camera.
Yeah.
Right. But in a weird way, that guy got validated. He
he's
dropped that line.
Man. He's taking it, man.
It's darkly funny that he ended up being kind of right, but I really do worry about the implications this sends. And this, as someone who roots for Missouri, this scares the hell out of me because these types of moments are what define what the future of the sport looks like. It is the bad TV deals of the Pac-12 that lead the Big Ten to being an all-coast conference. It is Texas and OU not getting enough share of the pie of their media rights to then join the SEC. Every one of these, there's moments and times where things fail, and you can see as we come back now in hindsight's 2020 of what has led to the sport that we've become. And the one thing that keeps getting lost is regionality. And you're like, Jerry, what are you talking about? He's moving a state away, right? But when these TV contracts inevitably come up, when we talk about a guy like Lane Kiffin, who is in the playoff, has earned his spot in the playoff. And the Ole Miss is a good team. This is a very, very good team. I get it. It may not have won you a national championship. That's hard to do. But it's not like this is some, oh my God, Cinderella story. No, they've beat some good folks. They have some talented players. This is a legit good SEC program that has done everything it's supposed to. It has thrown all the money behind it. And I get it. Vaughn Hemingway is not, it's not LSU, and all these things are not that. But this is not G5. But what is stopping 5 or 6 years from now when some of those media rights deals are on, when Ohio State says, I don't want to go play Iowa anymore.
Yeah.
Or pick school you think is in the second tier. I don't want to go play Northwestern. Why not when I can make $20 million more and ESPN and Fox do a super package and they give you Michigan, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, pick all your big brands, and they become a super conference. Yeah. You might think I'm being hyperbolic, and that's fair. This is kind of somewhat aggressive reaction. But this is the kind of moment that makes this happen when we say, hey, Lane Kiffin thought, and Lane Kiffin's decision set off a trend of like, it doesn't matter if you're in the playoff. It should. It starts here by saying that schools within your own conference are not good enough. So then they're going to start breaking up the conferences because, these conferences are too big. We're seeing it with the conference title games. We'll talk about those in a bit. We're going to the computers again.
Yeah.
For certain things like the Mountain West, the Duke thing with the ACC is convoluted and crazy, and no one plays anybody and all this type of stuff. But like, out of all this, when we look in the future, I fear that this is a moment in time that will be pointed to say, yeah, why if I'm LSU, why play Missouri anymore? Why play Arkansas? They don't bring in the same money we do. They don't bring in the TV ratings. Who else is going to pull off this move? Missouri's not pulling my coach. All these things like that. There's levels to this. Well, those levels become the conferences. And then we take away the thing that makes this sport the most fun and makes it what it has been so special. It's the regionality. So, again, a little bit of an aggressive reaction. I understand. But it does worry me because you have just watched an SEC coach walk away to a job that's not even in the playoff because he thinks it's better.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's crazy.
This is the haves and the have-nots, and everybody's trying to keep. It's like trying to keep up with the Joneses. Is basically what every college program's doing right now. Where it's like, Missouri, Vanderbilt, where it's like we have to keep this coach or we'll lose him, and we have to pay him. You know what I mean? So you try to keep up, and at a certain point, can some of these schools keep up with it all the time? I think that's going to be the other thing too. So that will be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, it is nuts. Creepy Photo says that was a NASCAR interview. I mean, Marty Smith did do NASCAR before he got into college football. So
dude, shout out to Marty Smith. I want to give a lot of credit.
I mean, he was locked in the Ole Miss Manning facility there for a very long time. I think he had the same suit on for the interview that he had on yesterday. So he was not planning on
job. That is truly a thankless job. Like the amount of live hits that man had to do throughout the day.
Yeah.
Through halftime show reports, he probably had to do from the SEC Network too. Like. You're not getting a lot of stuff. Everyone's looking at you. You hope to break some news. You're not the only one on the story either. Like,
not the only one at your own network on the story either.
No, like I know there was a moment in the 4 million live hits that Marty did that he texted Lane Kiffin on air. Trust me, Lane Kiffin's phone is blowing up.
Oh, yeah.
With people trying to figure it out, scoop, etc. But like, shout out to all the people covering this. This is chaotic. This is a moment, not even to be hyperbolic. This is a moment in history in its own sense. To watch, even if we want to take away the broader implications, you do have LSU hiring away a current coach of a playoff team, just in this sense. That's historic. We've never had that before to this degree. To do it mid-season. It's going to be messy. It's Ole Miss, of course. It's a little weird. I don't know what LSU's tenure, but like the Lane LSU tenure, I feel like doesn't have a hot start, which I do worry about too, because that is similar to Brian Kelly in that sense.
Yeah.
I do think the one thing that helps him is that Brian Kelly was viewed as an outsider. Lane is not.
And he's proven it in the SEC the last couple of years.
Yeah. So that does help him, I think, a lot, where Brian Kelly had to prove himself and then came in trying to be something he wasn't. He's talking like this. He don't talk like this. Caleb knows he's a neighbor, and he never talked to him like this. So I don't think that really helped in that sense. It's another splash, which I also think is interesting. I know when we kind of talk, we're going to kind of transition to the other jobs here soon, but like, yeah, this was the big fish in the water. And even with this decision not being final till a couple hours ago, so many other jobs started hiring, knowing that Lane was probably going to LSU.
Yeah.
So this was that domino that we kept talking about finally falling. Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do, but LSU is one of the premier jobs. I do get this in some, like if you were telling me the Ole Miss coach went to LSU, I understand that in that sense, without a lot of this context, because you get to recruit one of the best states in football in America, in Louisiana, and you have it pretty easy. There are multiple kids here that did not commit from LSU because they're from Louisiana. When Brian Kelly left, they didn't care who was going to be there. They're playing for LSU.
Yeah.
There's a very specific culture here. There's a lot of money here. If you can't do it here, there's a lot of questions about you as a coach. Look at Brian Kelly. And look how we talk about Edo and even Les Miles, let alone Nick Saban, right? But obviously post Nick Saban, any coach who's taken this job has won a championship except Brian Kelly. I know you take no joy in hearing that, Caleb.
I think it's great. I think it's
but
great.
Like, this is one of those places where there is no more excuses. Lane will now have to show up. And this is, if he is for real, which I'm not saying he's not. He's done miracles, it feels like, at times at Ole Miss. He's done fantastic. But now there is no, we need more people in the stadium. Like he could complain on those off games that the stadium wasn't filled and packed. That's not going to happen in Baton Rouge. You'll get people there. A night game there is legit. There is no off week. There is a true investment into this program. This is a state-led program. Everybody else around you is a G5. You can do whatever you want, but you have to win. And I think Kirby said this, and we could probably end on this with Lane Kiffin. You don't get the LSU job. You kind of rent the seat. That's a paraphrase, but it's not like you take that job. Just you rent it until they're done with you. And also shout out to their governor for complaining about this taxpayer spend, which not a single dollar of taxpayer money was spent on this search. I want to be very clear. And they went out. He has one of the biggest contracts in all of college football. That was totally a fair thing that he wanted to do and wasn't trying to score political points.
No. Well, no. I will say too, so there's supposed to be an introductory press conference tomorrow. And I'll say this too on the Lane thing is this guy's wanted to get back to the top ever since he got fired on that tarmac at USC. That you can't tell me it's not eating at him because he had one of the premier jobs. And at that time, the USC job was a top 5 job. After Pete, he was there with Pete. He understood it. He said, okay, he kind of got it. And then once he got it, some stuff happened with all the Pete allegations and everything went down there. And then he got fired and then he had to go back and kind of reset his life. So he's been fighting to want these jobs and he had the chance to get it. And he said, look, I'm not going to not take it and we'll see how it goes. Time will tell, but as if everything that Lane has done in his life, it's ended messy. And, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. And he's the first coach to be the head coach of 3 SEC's programs. So we'll see how this goes.
That's an insane stat in its own mind. Jesus Christ. I didn't even think about that.
Tennessee, Ole Miss, and now LSU. Wow. So this guy's been all over the place, but we will see how it finishes. All right. We had some coaching hires. One was earlier in the weekend, Stanford hiring Tavita Pritchard. I hope I'm saying that name right. I hope for the sake of the Notre Dame-Stanford rivalry, I'm saying that right. He was the Washington Commanders quarterback coach, and he's a former Stanford quarterback. He was a teammate with Andrew Luck. He was actually the quarterback that won them the game against USC when they were 40-point underdogs with Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
So this hiring it's an Andrew Luck hiring. It's wacky out of nowhere.
They needed that a little bit. The nice thing, and you want to talk about a different consequence of Lane, it's not the Stanford job, I promise, is I do think more schools are going to go down the route that Stanford did, which is get a GM. I mean, it's kind of a West Coast thing right now. You have it at Texas Tech. I think Notre Dame has one. Don't go
Notre Dame has one. Cal has one.
Because Stanford got a chance, and okay, this is very few programs will give you a year just to do whatever you want. Like with Andrew Luck, where they're just like, all right, you can throw Frank right out there. I don't care what he does. But you can kind of wait around, interview, and do what you want here with a GM, especially with this calendar being so weird. I do think a GM could bring a level of stability that will take away some of the jobs of a head coach. So some coaches may not like it as much. But in this situation, Stanford could wait around. They got to go where they wanted to. Andrew Luck made the hire he wanted to. Can I guarantee you success? No. For the rest of these hires, I cannot guarantee you success or failure. I'll tell you if I think they're good. I will know if they're good because some of the easy layup hires end up being terrible. Some of the ones that are wacky work. I am very curious how a place like Stanford that got a chance to take its time, do what it wanted. I think that will become more commonplace, especially with the changing environment. That way, if you want to fire your coach earlier, okay, you still have a presence in the football program. You're not completely devoid of some level of leadership. And Stanford's a prime example of this. So that says a lot for me to say I don't know anything much about him as a coach because, again, he's coming from being a QB coach. Washington, obviously Jane Daniels doing good, but he's hurt, but good that rookie year. It's a guy who has roots to the place, real first test in my mind of what Andrew Luck's leadership of Stanford looks like.
Yeah, and I'll say too, he's building it in a way of people that were there for the rebuild under Jim Harbaugh and how bad that was, and it's pretty bad now. They're 4-8 this year, and they've not been to a bowl game since 2018. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't know. He's going to clearly get time to build the program, which I think is nice for him. But this is your first big head coaching hire of okay, if this doesn't work, how many chances does he get? I think is the next big thing moving forward. All right. Ryan Silverfield is going to Arkansas. Who would have thought, right? That was kind of out of nowhere, I would say. I think Arkansas was hoping to get somebody big, and it didn't really work out. He's been at Memphis the last 5 years as a head coach, 15-25. He had a 10-win season 2 years ago and 11-win season last year. Look, I mean, this program's awful. I don't even think they had an SEC win, but they have a lot of money backing them. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this whole thing operates and moving forward, and how long does he get to kind of build up this program?
I will give Hunter Yurachek, the AD here, some credit. He let Bobby Petrino have a season. And you're going to say, as the guy who usually is like the moral police on this podcast, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, there's contingencies of a lot of different fan bases that think certain ways about their coaches. There's definitely a contingency, some with money, that definitely love Bobby because they remember the good times of Bobby and forget the rest. Crazy. It's almost like they got hit off a motorcycle. But, so he let Bobby Petrino have that season, and then they played terribly. Undisciplined, good offense, but terrible defense. I witnessed it last weekend. Close games, not a lot of wins, but they didn't play well. So it was really hard for a lot of people to get behind the Bobby Petrino wave, which was very possible here and would have been a real mess. Silverfield, I want to say safe hire, but kind of feels that way. And I'm okay with that. Speaking of Hunter Yurachek, a while back when they fired Sam Pittman, there was a very blunt and good question asked. I forget the reporter who just asked Yurachek, did he have the money and the resources to win? And he said no, like they were not up to that standard. So this is both going to be a question of, can Silverfield bring a new energy here? At times, I think his Memphis tenure was very good. At other times, it's kind of disappointing. So he's not like a superstar hire, but he's done a really good job of keeping a good program consistent. Now, will he be able to build up and get the time? I think he'll get a little bit more than people give him credit for. They gave Sam Pittman a lot of time. He just has to be liked. I think that's the difference. And I remind you, pre Sam Pittman, the Chad Morris era was terrible. Like, that's rock bottom. So if you don't go down there, Sam Pittman brought you back to kind of 6-6. You could be a little bit more. I'm not sure if he's going to be the guy to immediately do that, but he's not a bad hire. Do I think it's a home run? No, but one of the things that we'll kind of get through is more people start hiring. Not everyone's going to be a home run.
No.
Because there's only so many jobs, people you could pick from. This is a solid person to get. It may not be the winner of all winners, but I don't think it's a bad hire at all.
Well, it's one of those things too, is in the argument I had with a bunch of these schools was like, who are you going to hire? Like, who is the big fish out there that you think you can get? So I think this is that round of coaching hires that's going to be like, these guys are going to either prove they can coach or they're going to get fired, right? So I think this is the generation where you're going to start to see guys become legends. And, you always have those where they restart and take over programs and you don't really know. Some guys are going to become legends, some guys aren't. So this is that coaching cycle where it's like there's not a lot of guys to go pull over to bring in and get these home run guys or whatever. You got to go out and get younger guys or guys that have been in the G5 to kind of take over and see how it goes. Auburn went that route as well. Alex Golish gets the Auburn job. One of the hottest, I would say, G5 coaching names out there. He's getting the chance. He's been at USF since 2023. He's 23-15 with his best season this year at 9-3. He's an offensive mind. Auburn put out a graphic that showed like Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton, and somebody else being like, "Oh, this guy, the offensive guru."
He did work at Tennessee as either OC or I don't think he's OC as like QB coach, so he does have some developmental.
It was just funny though. It was like Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton. They're like your guys to be like, yes, he's developed them guys. But I will say, I think his toughest opponent's going to be keeping Deuce Knight at Auburn.
I don't know what the roster turnover at Auburn's going to look like with this type of hire. That's always obviously a constant factor here. I'm just glad Auburn didn't Auburn this thing. All right. You're going back to the basics. You hired your ex in the sense because Hugh Freeze was supposed to be your controversial splash, I should say. He was the guy who was supposed to beat Saban because he did it at Ole Miss, even though those wins are a little, honestly, fraudulent, but look at them again. Watch that tape over. This is a guy who's shown he's a hot name. He's a hot commodity in this sense. A lot of these jobs, I feel like if you give him a little bit of time, crazy things can happen. I'm also very glad that they did not hire DJ Durkin as the head coach.
That would have been terrible.
Well, it's just you would have been. It's like, hey, do you want to have the problems of Hugh Freeze just a little bit less and defensive coordinator vibes? Here's DJ Durkin. Like, congratulations! And if you don't believe me, look up DJ Durkin court. See how that goes. But no, Golish is a good hire. He's one of these names that deserves to get an upper tier job. He will be. He brings a swagger to that place that I think has been missing for a while. Gus had it here and there. He brought in players that had that swag. Alex Golish himself has a little bit of that swag. There's that viral moment. I forget who they're playing. That they win 44-21. It's like an ongoing gif around Alex Golish. That he does the quick handshake and just burst right past this guy.
That was Herman.
Yeah, and like, yeah, at FAU. And like, you need a little bit of that. Just kind of back instead of having all these weird, stupid problems. So to have a guy who's young, doesn't have some weird, problematic past or stayed his welcome a little too long, very helpful to come off of Brian Harsin and then Hugh Freeze to finally go to somebody that just is a good football coach. That feels like a win in its own right.
Well, it also feels like the Auburn coaches are like guys that they try to make us think are perfect or good, and they're not. And so I think he's like the first one where it's like, okay, like this guy brings something, like he's not trying to be perfect. He knows what he is, and for the first time in a long time, Auburn has that. So I think that is nice. All right, moving on to Florida now. Florida rehired Billy Napier. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, John Summerall. Very similar resumes that this has been brought up. Very similar resumes, but Florida swung and missed with Lane. They wanted Lane. They said, "Hey, come home, Lane. We want you in Florida." Well, they had to turn, and then they turned down to a guy in Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz. Well, he re-upped with Missouri, of course, being like $9 million a year. And then they went to John Summerall, and I would say kind of out of the G5 guys, it was him and Al Golish were the two guys that people wanted. I will say, they're Tulane's a playoff hopeful. It sounds like he's going to coach Tulane. I don't know if that's just this weekend or moving forward in the playoff, but it sounds like he's going to continue to coach them. He coached at Troy and at Tulane as the head coach. 42-11 was his record. So I don't know. I'm not saying he's going to be Billy Napier. It's very similar. It feels like.
The thing I worry about Summerall is I think his time at Troy should be more exciting to you than his time at Tulane. His time at Troy is he slowly built Troy back up and made that a very respectable program. And then he came to Tulane under Willie Fritz. And Willie Fritz, as we were seeing now at Houston, Willie Fritz just kind of wins wherever he goes. And he's, I think, been a fantastic hire for Houston. After he left, Willie Fritz did, and Summerall stepped in here, they haven't been that much better. And if anything, they've been kind of, in my mind, a little worse. So that kind of worries me a little bit in that sense. But it's a solid, safe move when you went for the home run. The thing is, with a guy like Summerall, is you hope that the work that Billy Napier did behind the scenes of getting the investment to the swamp up and all that other stuff starts to pay dividends. Summerall's obviously really liked by his players. He's built solid programs. He's a name that deserves to have a shot at this. My funniest thought about this is that we are literally one disagreement away from this not being the hire and instead being under year one at UNC for John Summerall. So in a way, he should be both thankful and maybe a little curious and worrisome that he is stepping in, because this is a big jump, even if Florida has not had the mojo that it once did. I kind of think Auburn and Florida are kind of similar vibes right now. If programs that have a really big history, I think Florida's a little bit better. Fair argument, that's a back and forth. I don't need to mess up with those fan bases right now. But has a good history. It's a good SEC program that's kind of fallen onto hard times. It had its moment. Now, it's a hard and it's a big task for John Summerall to take in, but in his fairness, he has won everywhere he's went. But I am a little weary. It does kind of feel like we did say when he got fired, you don't hire your ex. But the problem is riding in here, we are looking at 5 different candidates. And like, if they would have done this with Eric Morris, who was at Oklahoma State, I assume you guys talked about in the midweek, like you would have the same kind of vibe and problem here too. So it's like, you don't have as many hard hitters. I know there was like outside, and I mean like outside chatter of like a Lincoln Riley going here. I don't know if that was going to be the case.
I don't know if that was from his. I think that was from his side.
Yeah, that was like a really again. That's you know, I talk about coast to coast. That's how far they had to throw the ball to get that message out there. But also, again, this is also where the coaching timelines doesn't really. It does matter in some degree when you fire your coach, but not that much. You know, they've been coachless for now like 2-3 months, and they're still ended up with a solid G5 coach. It's not a bad hire at all. But all these jobs closing to get us to Ole Miss and Pete Golding is a big deal.
Yeah.
So in a way, all these schools hiring away Silverfield, Golish, Summerall puts Ole Miss in even a worse problem. And where the Pete Golding no interim tag, just screw it, he's the head coach. This is another side effect of the Lane Kiffin decision that is gut wrenching. If you are Ole Miss, Pete Golding's fine. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, and he may turn around and win a playoff game for all I know, right? Like I'm not going to derail and completely just poo poo on him, but Ole Miss does not have time to do a search
No.
as well. Where all these other schools, you know, like also shout out to Florida for kind of stealing Summerall from Auburn. That was a lot of the chatter before this, and then when Lane dropped out, that's a prime example of how much this weight this decision's had. Is that if this decision isn't made right now, I can almost guarantee you Summerall's the coach at Auburn, right? Like that's how quick this goes. But Ole Miss now has zero time to do a search because you're in the playoff. You possibly had a chance in an SEC game, and you don't know if your head coach is staying. You don't start a proper search with the guy still there, especially when you're 11-1. So Pete Golding, I feel like is kind of going to put into a tough spot. Even if they lose this playoff game and all this, this is just not. This is a hard spot to be in. It feels kind of cratery already, just because we don't know who's going to stay, who's a Lane Kiffin guy, who's an Ole Miss guy. You know, like that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel bad for him, but it's not. You know, I'm hoping he's going to get a proper pay raise to put up with this, but he's quickly going to turn, in my mind, a bridge coach to whoever Ole Miss wants to get next. I early thought he's like, this is a 2-year job. You go, okay, thank you for your service. The buyout's going to be probably pretty low. It's probably going to be a pretty friendly team deal. This gives Pete Golding a chance to be a head man somewhere and say he did in the SEC, because you don't turn that option down if you're not Lane Kiffin, I guess.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, they try and do a real search. But this is probably this is a high moment for Ole Miss that's quickly going downhill. And yeah, I guess everything is Lane Kiffin.
Well, it's very panicky, but they have no other choice, right? Like they have to figure it out. You're going to be in the playoff, we assume. You're going to be in the playoff. So you think, oh, all right, the guy that's not going to leave, we'll hire him. You know what I mean? Because the talk was like Joe Judge was going to be the interim coach. So you're like, okay, like what do you do? You know, looking at it. So then it's like, okay, no, we'll go with Pete Golding. We'll make him interim, and then everybody's like, no, this is the Pete Golding era. It's going to happen. I will say with the 4 SEC jobs on here, it all saves money, and I think that is good for these schools. It saves you money, and not saying Lane wouldn't work at Florida or whatnot, but it saves you money. It gives you a chance to kind of reset some things, kind of figure some things out. And if you're Ole Miss, you go from you were going to commit probably $12 million for Lane to stay to now Pete Golding, you can give him like $6 million. So
And
then
probably less.
yeah,
This is going to be a very team-friendly deal. But again, for Pete Golding, you could say I'm a head coach of an SEC program. He gets a shot. And Pete Golding has been a long-time SEC assistant. He's kind of run the ranks. So this is another way now, this exact way, very unique, obviously. This is one of the ways you can kind of build yourself into the SEC if you don't go the G5 route. As you become a long-time assistant, you slowly merge your way in. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad hire, but given the circumstances, it sucks. But it's not Ole Miss not doing their work and their homework. It's they got screwed, and now they're trying to kind of keep the dam from breaking. I just want to throw this out here, just because the coaching carousel never stops. It's not a big time job opening, but one I will be monitoring. Coastal Carolina is also firing Tim.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I'll make this quick as we kind of move through a lot of the picture here. The reason this is interesting is that Jamie Chadwell left Coastal, went to Liberty. He struggled there. He was supposed to be cool offensive guy. Jamie Chadwell got burned for even like SEC jobs. Think like South Carolina. That was a real talk. But Coastal was supposed to was in an identity crisis mode under that. So they're telling this firing tells me that they think they can be more. Now, does that tell me that Jamie Chadwell knew the place really well and recruited well, or that this is a better job than just him. I don't know, but they're going to put the perception out because he was a 6-6 coach,
Yeah.
barely bowl game, in a very winnable Sun Belt. Outside of JMU, there's a lot of movement, a lot of uncertainty here and there. So you can make some moves here. That's a job that, yeah, whenever they make that hire, it may not be sexy or big deal, but it's something I'm keeping an eye on because if they do it right, the Chanticleers are a fun team to root for. I'll be the first to say it.
Well, they have free concessions. I know that. And two, this is one of those jobs where it's like if you have a good assistant that you like on your staff, you could lose them to that. That's one of those jobs. All right, before we get to Michigan State and that debacle, Creepy Photo says, if Lane can leave like this, Jerry, do I have to worry about Marcus Freeman soon?
I mean, you can always worry about Marcus Freeman because Brian Kelly left. Now, so like we're getting to this point more and more where like no job is truly safe because in that same cycle again, Oklahoma lost their coach. This
Yeah.
is it wasn't just a Notre Dame specific thing. The thing I think about with Freeman specifically is that Freeman is really like there. The Brian Kelly thing, as much as it was a big deal and there was repercussions that I think have changed the sport significantly, people were tired of Brian Kelly. And that's not me just saying that to, feed into Caleb's happiness, but like there was a level of like, okay, you want to leave? Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Freeman was a home run. There is the famous press conference quote with Brian Kelly being like, he's going to be my replacement one day. And everyone laughs around. And then here we are.
Yeah.
If Notre Dame's smart, you got to put an extension on him soon. And usually I'm not the guy who advocates for crazy buyout and extension, but what Marcus Freeman's done a very good job at is he's done all the little things around the school right. You brought back the pregame mass. You've leaned into the Catholic school stuff. He's around the community doing a lot of like those nice small things. That matters. Like, all politics are local, and there's some politics that would bore the hell out of you guys for me to talk about as someone who's people have lived there all their lives. And I'm like, hey, here's your political landscape. Oh, shut up, right? Like I know where to stop here, but all those things I know mattered, and they made him that much more likable. And he's done everything they've asked for. And I do think what has helped Notre Dame is that lit a little fire out the butts when it's like, oh, we could lose our coach. Oh, our coach could leave. Like, and okay, do I think the Notre Dame administration was now so sad to see him go? No, but it was like maybe we're not impenetrable. And they need to keep that mentality because he's a name. Marcus Freeman, I don't worry about as much in college. He's an NFL name that should get some burn at some point. I hate to be that to you, Caleb, but
no, I mean, there's one job in college that if it ever came open, he'd go to in a heartbeat. There's no question about that, and that's Ohio State. He'd run to that job, and I don't blame him there, right? Like, you're an Ohio guy, your wife's an Ohio woman, you went there. Like, that is everything that you have ever thought of as Ohio State. That is you run to that job. Doesn't look like that job's going to open anytime soon, which is I want Ryan Day to keep beating Michigan so that job doesn't open. It helps me. But it's not more of like, why does he leave? It's gonna be the history of Notre Dame with coaches, and this goes back to Frank Leahy of like, just the job gets to you after a certain amount of time, and it's like, I can't do it anymore. And Brian Kelly kind of got to that point where he's like, to try and win here, it feels harder. It is harder. I don't want to do it anymore. And that's what's going to happen with Marcus. It's going to be like when you become president of the United States, you age quicker, which he hasn't looked like it yet, but at a certain point you do, and you put so much into it that, yeah, I do believe NFL is kind of where he goes and looks around just based off of that. But I think as of right now, he looks at it and says, I'm a little too young, I think, for that. He maybe wants to get a little bit older. And he does like Notre Dame. He loves it. He converted to a Catholic. Everything, it feels good. So,
mind you, he's a first-time head coach. Like this, there is a level of Marcus Freeman that needs to be talked about. Of he appreciates that place not just for the history, which true ball knowers. I don't say that. That sounds a little aggressive, but like there's a history there at Notre Dame that is very unique and one-to-one. That if you love the sport, you have an appreciation. You might hate them, but like there is that like, oh, it's Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman's one of those guys who goes, yeah, it's Notre Dame. And they gave him a shot. And I do think that does weigh a lot positively in his favor. I don't think Marcus Freeman, to be very clear, and nor do I have the sourcing to even tell you that I think he's looking. But Notre Dame's smart. You put an extension on him. It doesn't have to be the biggest one. And again, this is a private school. They could just do it and say, hey, we're giving him $2 more million because he's already making a good dollar, and just do the thing where you take from the buyout and you just put it on the front end where it's not like a real extension. That's one of those fake extensions. That's what Missouri did with Drinkwitz to start this year, where it was an extension. Not really. Like they could even do that, but something where I want to say don't give people the option, but why not?
Yeah.
Especially when you have when we'll talk about playoff stuff a little bit. He's going to have to fight to be the best team in his own state, which is something Notre Dame has never had to do.
No.
So I do think there's something where commit to him. He's been great for the program. He's and again, there's one out of the two coaches that took that job in the last 5 years. One of them's fired. One of them's hopefully, possibly in the playoff.
Yeah.
And one's been to a national title game. So he has all the goodwill in the world. There should always be a little bit of worry, but like say 3 to 5%, something where if it happened, that's going to blow up a lot of things in the sport.
And also, I think he likes it even better because there is a new president who's much younger. Pete Aqua came in, who's much younger. AD, so it's just like a young infusion thing. It kind of fits with him. It works with him. And yeah, he is one of those guys that looks at it and says, "Hey, we're Notre Dame." Kind of like the Lou Holtz is, we're Notre Dame and they're not. So that's kind of how he views it, which is nice because it's just one of those things. Creepy Photo says, "Thank you for summarizing." All right, going on to a team that many may not believe, but I am an alum of this school. I do root for Notre Dame, but I am a love of Michigan State, and it's pretty hard to root for the football team the last couple of years. It's been an embarrassment, I will say, with coaching hires and then just play on the field. So came out today. Jonathan Smith's fired. They won yesterday, but he's still fired. His buyout's $33 million, which sometimes Michigan State is nothing. This is what. See, I could go on and on about this university, about certain things. This is one of those things that would irritate people that aren't into sports at Michigan State. Because when I was a senior at State, we got rid of our swim and diving team because we didn't have the funds for it. And then a donation of $20 million was made to the athletics. Still no swim diving team. So this is one of those weird things that goes on. And then Mel Tucker gets that massive deal that's funded by Matt Ishbia. So I'm sure Ishbia has his fingerprints all over this with the firing of this, because I'm sure him and Dan Gilbert are bidding against each other because they hate each other to get Pat Fitzgerald, who it looks like is going to be the next head coach's contract done. Look, I would have gave Jonathan Smith another year just based off of just give him another year. Oregon State, which I know he was an alum there, they gave him, I think, 5 years, and he slowly figured it out. But also to help the buyout down a little bit. And honestly, in the way the Big Ten is now,
See, this is where we need comments because Caleb might be talking and we might be a little frozen here. If that's the case, that's fine. Oh, wait, are you alive? Do you hear me?
we back?
Did you freeze? Did you? Okay.
Yeah, no, we both froze.
Oh, that's cute. At least we did it together.
Yeah, no. At Michigan State, look, they're already coming after me. This is what this is exactly what they wanted. Yeah, Jerry, you had the throne there for a second. Yes, it was a freeze off.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
No, so look, there's a lot of problems here with this school. Outside of Tom Izzo, there's always problems. When I was in school, we had 3 presidents of the university. There's been 3 athletic directors since I've graduated. And now you go and get Pat Fitzgerald, which on paper you're like, yes, he was really good at Northwestern, 110 and 101, was there a long time, 5-5 in bowl games. Got not many coaches got more out of less than him. And so you think, yeah, this is a home run hire. But then you look back at why he's no longer at Northwestern. His last 2 years at Northwestern, he's 3-9 and 1-11. So I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. I'm just tired of the continued chaos. And I will say, you got to get a guy. And this is why Mark D'Antonio was so great, is he understood you have to beat Michigan. And at Michigan State, I know it's crazy to say, but that is your goal. He was able to do that. He based the program around that. Jonathan Smith had 2 chances to beat Michigan where he probably could have, and he didn't. So hopefully Pat Fitzgerald can figure it out. And you have to build around that. I know Michigan doesn't view it that way in the rivalry, but at Michigan State, you have to view it that way. And it worked.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think the thing that I think about with Michigan State is that this is not just a football problem, right?
No.
As Caleb has alluded to quite eloquently, if it's swim or dive or gymnastics program, Michigan State athletics has its own level of mess that was just now recently in the football program, right? It almost feels like an infection in some degree, where Mel Tucker was the latest person to get it. Now, I'm not defending Mel Tucker. What Mel Tucker did was beyond dumb. Like, you talk about weird and we talk about stupid things about this sport. But Mel Tucker did make Lane Kiffin look like a 190 IQ person. Like, that was egregiously stupid. The thing I don't get with Michigan State is I understand the standard, and nor do I think the standard should change. And when Michigan State wants to be good, it can be good. It has the stadium, it has good facilities, it's in a good recruiting ground. Michigan and Ohio, you can get from both. So you have good Midwestern recruiting areas and this like that. Um, but right now, at least the football program is still a cratering hole. I don't
Yeah.
know why people expected. And again, this is not a clean cut program that's just been falling on hard times. This feels like an Auburn move. This is and like with Smith, I get it. The vibes aren't good. I'll be the first to admit it. Like the biggest headline I saw from Michigan State football was Aiden Child saying like the fans suck. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not be somebody whose sister goes to the school and kind of like keeps up on the side. That should not be the first thing I think of. I understand that, and there is a standard to be set, but it's not like you're just coming off a bad coach. You're coming off of a coach who screwed things up royally by doing something very dumb. You need to lay low, be quiet, and if he sucks for 3 years, let him suck. Let him get things in order. And this is a defense of John Smith to some degree because I thought he was really good at Oregon State and all this stuff like that. But it's like you got to let somebody take care of your mess. And if you have to lay low and be quiet and maybe get beat by Michigan for a couple of years, so be it. But there's no damn scandal. You're not worried about paying out Mel Tucker. You can kind of let that stuff rinse away. But it's like, what did we expect? I get it. It's not been good, but it's not like you're coming from a position where you're supposed to be good. And my point on Pat Fitzgerald stays the same, which legally he's fine. There's nothing wrong on his name in terms of legal problems and legal trouble. But a man who tells you he is a culture builder and is supposed to be this guy who builds this whole program, to have this happening under his nose, which either A, legally you can't say he knew about it, but knew to some degree and got away with it, or B, did not know about the things that are going on in his program, that's a major red flag to me. I get he was a good football coach, and at times at Northwestern he did really good. I want to remind you, Northwestern gave him time. Northwestern rode through him to the tough times, which they just did not do with their current coach, and he was at his alma mater that had even lower expectations than current Michigan State. Now, I'm not saying Michigan State doesn't expect anything. D'Antoni brought success. There is a standard here. Beating Michigan is a realistic thing to do. And as much as Michigan fans will hate this, that's more possible than they want to give it credit to. I know this is a big brother, little brother thing. Little brother ain't cheap, and little brother ain't that little. This is, the 16 to 18-year-old, not 16 to 12-year-old fight here. But it's messy. It makes no sense. And of course, this will be the one that works out, and I have to eat my words. But it just doesn't. This is an athletic department that finds a way to do dumb things. And what it's doing long term is it's hurting its image to other coaches and to the athletic world. Because, yeah, when Tom Izzo leaves, that basketball job will be good. But God forbid that ever falls off a cliff in some degree, this gets desolate real fast. Because people still think about the basketball program and Tom Izzo. But to your point, Caleb, that's that. That's over there. Michigan State athletics is over here. Yeah. And the more this just gets worse, this can't save you forever. And, Tom Izzo's going to go at some point. He's going to retire. He's going to live a great life post that. But it's going to be a real problem because you have no figure faces, and every person in Michigan State feels crummy. Pat Fitzgerald kind of gives me crummy vibes. I don't like it. But, of course, because it feels weird, this is the one that works. Or if it doesn't work, you just led yourself to more mess and you wasted $30 million. I don't get this one really.
No, time will tell. Like I said, outside of Tom Izzo, and I'd say the hockey program now, Nightingale's got it going again. Outside of those two things, it's somewhat of a mess. I will say they got a new athletic director not too long ago. Jay Bad is his name. He was from Georgia Tech. So
hired Renke, by the way. I want that to be note there. That's a big note there.
But I think he tried to, like, the writing was probably on the wall for Jonathan Smith. Like, hey, you got to figure it out. We have a new AD. If you don't get it done this year, he's going to want his own guy. I'm sure Brent Key was the guy he wanted. Well, Brent Key's from Georgia Tech, so that was a tough one to get him to come up here. So he says, hey, they zeroed in. They clearly wanted Pat Fitzgerald. Um, I'm sure they did their homework. I'm hoping they did their homework, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is one of those things where I'm just tired of like the always be it is a laughing stock thing. It's like, oh, they can never figure this out. There's always problems, and then basketball saves us through March, and then the summer something happens again. And like when they got rid of the athletic director, Tom Izzo was the athletic director. That's a problem as a university. I love Tom Izzo, but that is a problem when he is the guy that you always go to fix your problems. That's not always going to be there. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe Pat Fitzgerald becomes that guy, but who knows? Time will tell.
And I do like Jay Baz and AD. I will leave it on this. He did a lot of good work at Georgia Tech. His big thing was fundraising. He's very good at getting money. He helped bring a lot of money to Georgia Tech and to Brent Key to have that level of success before he went off. But these are the types of – the hard part is when you start going down this hill, right? And mind you, again, Mel Tucker took the Michigan State program, at least in my mind, and threw it down a cliff because of how messy and stupid it was. Both those things matter here. And I put a lot of this immediately on Mel being dumb. But you're in a crater. Now getting rid of a guy after 2 seasons, it becomes harder and harder to convince people that this is a good job. Now, I don't think it's a bad job. It's a Big Ten job. It has those resources, all these things. You could go worse. But like if you go for this controversial hire, the guy who's going to build back, and he sucks, well, then it gets real awkward. So it's like this is a very big bet, and it feels like you're putting a lot on red for no reason.
No, we'll see. Time will tell. Like I said, there is money behind it, but I don't know if I fully want Matt Ishbia running Michigan State athletics as well. This guy has his own problems going on right now, allegedly. So time will tell. All right, some upsets this week. We had the big upset with Texas, but we'll talk about that in our highlighted games. Vandy, they were an underdog. They were at Tennessee. We kind of thought, I don't know, they'll probably end up 9-3. They're playing Tennessee. Who knows? Well, they beat Tennessee 45-24, and Diego Pavia probably got himself a seat in New York at the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Depending on how you look at the Heisman, I think that's deserved. We've talked about the Heisman a little bit here before, is that if you see the Heisman as just best player in college football, I understand if you don't think Pavia is supposed to be there. If you think it's most valuable player in college football, which I don't know which one's technically defined as, Diego Pavia should be there. This is, I think, the best way to describe Diego Pavia is he really is like the point guard of the Vandy football operation. Like, even though his passing game wasn't great, he ran all over this team. He has been a hellbender, and I'm going to tell you this right now. This is one of those few losses. I think Heupel's been pretty fine, Tennessee. I think he's done a really good job, especially post-Pruitt and all the mess they were in. He's done a very good job of studying this place. This is a type of loss, and I get it. Vandy's good. If you're Tennessee, you don't lose to Vandy. That's always a thought, right? Yeah. The same way, like you're LSU, you don't lose to Vandy. There's going to be some eyes and some conversations. I don't think it's over. And I get it how crazy this world has been this year with the coaching stuff. But if you ever want to start putting the seeds of doubt in, it's this type of game where you get run out of Knoxville by Vanderbilt. That's going to get some people talking just a little bit about Tennessee. So these are the types of losses you need if you want to have chaos. Which, Tennessee totally never had chaos with coaches before.
No, why would they? They're known for bagmen who would know. But Clark Lee also, getting the contract extension at his alma mater and then going out and getting a big win. I will say I've given up on the Jeremiah Love Heisman train. I took my cash out today of $9.40. So I was able to make $4.40. But after he got hurt yesterday by the Stanford guy that I'm pretty sure tried to injure him, it's over. It was a fun ride while it lasted. I still love him. I hope he's in New York for a finalist, but I don't think he's going to win it. So I just wanted to let the public know that I did take my cash out, and the campaign is over for me.
Yeah, the Heisman conversation this year feels kind of boring.
It's gross.
Because honestly, it's probably going to be Mendoza or saying they're both boring. Jeremiah Smith probably deserves to be up there, but I don't know if his stats are that good. But that's not a fair thing to him because, just for example, they're doing like a Carnell Tate Heisman.
Yeah.
Let's be real honest here. Carnell Tate is a fantastic receiver. Jeremiah Smith's on that team. We're not talking about him for Heisman. Like, there's just he's just one of those ones. He may not be there because they double cover him every game, but
Yeah.
it's the Heisman. It's all this. A guy I wish was going to be talking about the Heisman is JKS, Agaboratelli, baby. That's all I'm doing. I'm not doing the first and middle. Okay, but JKS and the Cal Golden
Good,
Bears
dude.
coming out here. This is why we love the sport, because this chaotic outcome just feeds to the chaotic ACC title game. This is what honestly probably pushed a lot of people to tune in to this game, including me. Post Iron Bowl, quickly went to this game on ESPN2. Absolute barn burner. SMU with a clear-cut chance, if they win this game, to go to the ACC title game. A sneaky ACC contender this year gets taken down in a half-empty Cal Bears Cal Golden Bear Stadium by the one and only Nick Rolovich, a man who was fired for not taking the COVID vaccine, just led one of the state institutions of California to a win. That is darkly funny.
Led by General Manager Ron Rivera. I mean, this whole thing just keeps on going.
As the G5 guy, the fact that Duke has a chance, and mind you, just a chance, that you play against a good Virginia team, Duke wins that ACC title, we might have 2 G5 teams in the playoff.
Well,
I love that personally.
It also hurts Miami at a certain point too, because Miami lost to SMU. So Miami lost to SMU, who lost to Cal, who lost to Stanford. Like, it's just how that rolls down the tongue is just crazy.
Circle of suck.
It's just nuts. ACC has been wacky. It's been gross. And mind you, Stanford beat Cal by, I think it was like 35-10 or 31-10.
Oh, yeah.
And then so now you have Cal who goes in and beats us. It is one of those wacky things. But yeah, I mean, it brings back up the Duke. Welcome to the dance. Manny Diaz makes it to an ACC championship game before Miami, and they fired him, which is so funny to me. It's just been one of those goofy years, and the ACC is gross and nasty. It's been like that all year. And you're sitting there as Virginia, where you're kind of like the darling of the ball going into it, being like, all right, maybe, this is our chance to get in. If Duke beats them, you don't get in. ACC does not get in the playoff.
I just want you to know, you can kill the ACC Coastal, but you can't kill the idea.
It is just wacky, dude.
Dude, I love this. But no, we got some more games to get to. Let's keep moving, man. Moving to chains.
Another team who is making their case for the playoff, but I would say don't lose to a terrible Florida team, is Texas. They give Texas A&M their first loss of the season, 27-17, and I will say Arch Manning looked like the Arch Manning we expected at the beginning of the year when he walked into Columbus, Ohio, and played Ohio State.
Dude, Arch Manning games are the most takeable. Like, you can make whatever take you want, because like part of Arch Manning's game, especially that second half, he looks like a fantastic QB. You're like, oh yeah, this is what we've been waiting for all year. He also ended the game like 14 for 27 with like 150 yards. And you're like, what the hell? Like, you can take whatever you want away from this game because you had a little bit of both. I know I was joking around earlier about like Michigan State, like big brother, little brother. This is what that looks like. And as much as this, man, the battered Aggie syndrome just in full effect right here. I feel for him. And you want to talk about a way that things could derail quickly for a great season. What happens if you have a first-round playoff game at home if you're A&M and you lose there?
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, vibes there quickly shifted, and it's kind of crazy. They're not in luckily for them, honestly, they're not in the SEC title game.
Nope.
I feel like if you're going to go down that road, that's a perfect game to really start poo-pooing your pants. But big win for Texas. If Sark and Steve Sarkisian and whatever conference, not even just SEC, uses the idea of we should play nobody in the non-conference, we played someone in the non-conference, so we're screwed, just cancel it all, man. Like, there is a level of me that also gets frustrated that it's like 2-win team or 2-loss team and 3-loss team, better, worse. I don't know, man. Like, Sark, I think, has a level of a point, but to your point, Caleb, don't lose to Florida. Yeah. Like, this is the nice thing about the 12-team playoff in some degree, and this year it's going to have its own problems, but it's like, basically for any team that gets left out, there's a case you can make. Like, even when we get to like Miami, Notre Dame, which is, I know, a conversation we're going to continue to have until the final rankings. If you're Miami, don't lose to Louisville. We're not having this conversation. If you're Notre Dame, beat Miami. No one gives a damn, right? Like, and like now Miami's going to try and make the point as we go to our second highlighted win that they beat Notre Dame by more. And there is a fair point, I think, in a sense that of, hey, we beat Notre Dame and we've now beaten the team that their other ranked win kind of sort of by more. But they also have weird, not terrible, but weird losses. And the funniest part about this is Notre Dame's losses are technically better, but one of them is to Miami.
Yeah.
I
It's
think that is
wacky,
great.
dude. It's wacky.
Like Louisville is not a terrible loss. I don't want to categorize it. It's not like a 2-10 team. Louisville's fine. They're okay. SMU, a good team, middle top tier SEC, ACC team. But like harder than A&M. Like that's a really good loss. And then now ranked Miami. It's going to get a little bit wacky. There are implications here. I just say this, and I haven't done my playoff homework because the playoff never makes sense to me in its own right. The committee is the committee. There is a world where Notre Dame gets put over Miami gets put over Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think it's
And
going to happen.
I think that is closer to reality than I frankly would like to admit. It wasn't going to matter either way between what happened in our third game, so we'll wait on that. But yeah, there was a world here, and I don't want to get too deep into it because we're already an hour and 6 minutes in. But like, there's a world where Miami just ends up above Notre Dame because of that loss and the fact that they've beat Pitt by more. It's just a very weird and wacky sport.
No, well, okay. So Ohio State finally beats Michigan again. First time in like 6 years. Long time. Ohio State was a better team. They did what they were supposed to. They were supposed to do that last year. They finally did it this year. Ryan Day gets the monkey off his back. My question for them is like, okay, now that you beat Michigan, that was like your goal. And I get you still want to win a national title, but does that, like winning Michigan, does that, like, what does that do for them moving forward? I think they'll beat Indiana this weekend in the Big Ten championship game. But beyond that, it's like when they lost to Michigan, it was like, all right, the only thing we can do now to make ourselves look better is to win the national title. They did. Now that he's beat Michigan again, how does it move forward? So that's going to be the biggest thing, I would think, with that.
I do think the Sharon Moore honeymoon period is officially over too.
Oh,
Not that I think he's a hot seat, but that does the one thing that kept Sharon Moore in that like honeymoon phase outside of getting Bryce Underwood is 2-0 against Ohio State, and all this. And I think they had a good year. I'm not hot seat casting per se, but as now we get through the lengthened coaching tenure, now that period's over. Now it's going to start being let's put up or shut up, because this is the one thing Michigan had in these post-championship years that they can hold on to, which is, hey, we're still being Ohio State. So this and that. Well, now you don't got that anymore. So things get real interesting real quick. They're going to have to get some receivers.
They need help. Bryce Underwood needs help. They were so scared to throw the ball because they don't have wide receivers. It was beyond. It was crazy.
Now, one thing to give, I say Michigan credit, but something that does matter here is that Bryce Underwood was a good old-fashioned flip, and they did not have a lot of time to build a class around Bryce. Like a lot of these guys, a lot of these big-time quarterbacks, as you know, commit like junior year, like second semester junior year, and they are almost, in a way, part of the architects of these classes. Not every one of them, but like some of these, the quarterback commits, and then they try to get kids too with them. They become a spokesperson or recruiter themselves. Bryce was never really that because Bryce flipped late. That's not me being like, how dare you, Bryce Underwood? But like that does matter in this sense because Michigan did not have as much time this year to build a roster that I think really can highlight Bryce Underwood. He has the talent. I am on the train here. I do think he is. I think you have 2 more years of him. Like that's what I think of him. If that tells you anything. But this year, and I think this is going to be a big coming up season and this offseason, is huge for Michigan if they want to keep themselves relevant in the national conversation, which we have seen they can A, do very quickly, or B, they can crater. Like it is, I feel like with Michigan, it's one of those very few programs that you could very quickly, somewhat like LSU, when you're up there, you understand why they're up there, but it is so easy to fall off the mountaintop because there's a lot of people coming for you. You are a popular program, you have a lot of names, but you're telling me that Pat Fitzgerald isn't going to start going for some lower tier Michigan recruits and trying to get them and say, hey, Michigan didn't want you, and stuff like that, and start playing that game. Like it's hard to be the one that has the target on their back. And Michigan has finally kind of gotten back to that at some point. Now that's starting to fade. You have to bring that back. And that's going to be a tough task for Sharon Moore to do.
I will say they're very young. They're one of the younger, if not the younger team in the Big Ten. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop. But yeah, Bryce Underwood needs help. I mean, he can play. There's no doubt about it. He has the talent, putting it around him. So the line will be better next year. I think they have 3 freshmen starting this year. So they're going to get better. It was just one of those things where it was like Ohio State. It's like, this is what you should do when Michigan is like this in these certain circumstances. You weren't able to do it last year. You were able to do it this year. So we'll see. All right, quickly, I bring this up just because me and Jerry were talking a little bit before this. I think Tuesday is just as important as next Sunday when it comes to the playoff rankings because basically, whatever's set Tuesday for the teams that don't play, and if BYU doesn't win, the playoffs set. You can't then go and say, all right, now we can have these certain teams jump this or do this or move around this. Look, I've said it last week. I've said it the last couple of weeks. I think Miami's going to end up jumping Notre Dame. I think it happens Tuesday. They were slowly creeping, and I think they were waiting on the Pitt game to kind of be like, all right, Miami, look, man, they did exactly what Notre Dame did. They beat Notre Dame. So I think Miami will jump Notre Dame and Alabama this week, which will move them to 9, keep Bama at 10, and then Notre Dame will slide down to 11 is what I think will happen.
No, my question mark. You want to talk about chaos, and this is where Lane Kiffin. It's all about Lane Kiffin. What happens with Ole Miss now?
Yeah, I don't know because the committee did say last week that they would not ding them because they've not seen them play without their coach. It's not like the Florida State thing where they had the ACC championship game where they saw Florida State without Jordan Travis. So that's what they said. Now, do I believe it? No, but that's exactly what they said.
Because what's stopping the committee from just dropping now head coachless or Pete Golding coached Ole Miss
to 10 or 11?
And basically freeing up that room. The other thing that matters here is, again, the other thing I'm keeping an eye on is the back end of the rankings. SMU drops out, Pitt drops out, which does not help Miami's rank.
Georgia Tech probably drops out.
Georgia Tech drops out. I do think James Madison comes in here. So you want to talk about those? Again, we talk about those guaranteed spots. One of the things in the playoff graphic is that it's a bold assumption by the ESPN folks that Miami's going to win the ACC. Well, that's no longer going to happen. So you're either going to have Virginia or you might have those two G5s. And I think it comes this week with Arizona probably shoots up a little bit.
Arizona State drops out. Yeah.
Tennessee probably drops out as well. And then you throw in like a James Madison, maybe even a North Texas, depending on how you feel about that. But like on that back end stuff. But yeah, Tuesday is kind of like your pseudo N1. The question I also have here, what happened? The chaos thing, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're rooting for either Ole Miss gets screwed because that frees up a spot. You're also hoping that Texas Tech does what they did the last time they played BYU, which I want to say is a given. I think Texas Tech is a better team. They looked miles better when they played against each other.
But playing second time.
It's a conference championship game, and it's the second time, and Texas Tech has had their slip up because I think Texas Tech is in no matter what. But I think BYU gets knocked out if they lose to Texas Tech twice. And that does, again, that would free up said spot for like a Notre Dame. I do feel bad for like a Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt specifically. They're the other team that's on the cusp here. Utah as well. But especially Vandy. I have a bad feeling that Vandy's season at least will be a bowl game ender, which it honestly probably shouldn't. This year has just ranked out really weird. Where you have a good amount of 1-loss teams. This feels like in a lot of good 2-loss teams. Because like if we're going off of pure vibes, hot take here, I'd rather see Vanderbilt in the playoff than Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offense.
Yeah, based off of last game. I mean, John Mateer's 3 interceptions.
End of the season stuff, dude. John Mateer's looked like, but he's not been great. He was a Heisman favorite. He threw like 3 picks against LSU. Not that obvious, Jesus Christ, but they just dropped 20 on a top 20 team right now in your current rankings. That's how I'm going to lose their ranking, of course. So yeah, I kind of wish Vandy was here just because I think they've earned that right as a 9-2 SEC team. But yeah, things are going to get real weird. But Tuesday's going to really answer, as you said, Caleb, a lot of those questions. Your only thing that will change a lot of that is conference championship games, and like Indiana or Ohio State's not going to get dinged.
No, I don't think anybody who's playing in the conference championship other than BYU will get dinged.
I was going to say, well, I maybe because they're a 2-loss team, I could see Bama possibly getting dinged.
I don't know.
That's a big possible, but also the one loss for Georgia. And for some reason, Kalen DeBoer has figured out Kirby Smart, but cannot figure out like double-digit underdogs. Very, very weird vibes overall. But that I could just maybe see that being something, only because you do have 2 losses for Bama. Now, again, in the past, we've seen with conference championships, for the most part, those don't do anything to the rankings. So We'll see.
Yeah,
I could see this with Bama being a 2-loss and kind of weird shoe-in, weird SEC year, sneak in. Even though it's really not a weird SEC year, it's Bama, Bama, Georgia for the title game. That's almost kind of too normal, but
yeah.
that
No,
made my only other thought.
yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, last year you had 3 loss teams arguing against 2 loss teams. Now you have 2 loss teams, and then Texas, a 3 loss team, arguing against the other 2 loss teams. So it'll be interesting. I will say it'll be interesting to see what they do with Texas as well because Texas beat Vanderbilt. So will they jump? Will Texas jump Vanderbilt? So it's going to get really wacky. But like I said, I believed it for the last couple of weeks. I think that was the whole point of creeping Miami up was then to jump Notre Dame at the end of the year with the Pitt win, and that happened. So it'll be interesting to see because honestly, to your point with Oklahoma too, could Miami jump Alabama, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma based off of they dominated a top 25 team or top 22 team in Pitt, and Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama didn't maybe, do what you expected. So that'll be interesting. And then the Ole Miss thing, I think, would be the biggest thing. Even though they said they wouldn't, I mean,
That's the question mark.
You lose Lane and your offensive coordinator. You kind of think of Ole Miss's offense when you think of their team. So, time will tell. We'll see. Tuesday, but like I said, I think no one's talking about it because ESPN doesn't want you to talk about it. Tuesday's just as important as Sunday.
But watch the ranking show, guys, on December 7th.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be the crazy thing is Tuesday is just as important because as soon as Tuesday's set, it all depends on what BYU does. And after that, it's crazy. But I will say, too, if Miami does jump in, people are really going to be furious that maybe 2 ACC teams can get in. So that will be interesting as well if Virginia beats Duke. All right, moving on now to the NFL. Jerry, the Bears, we're now first place in the NFC. Who would have thought? I'm humbled to be here. I'm happy to be here. I just saw a stat. This is the latest that the Bears have had a share of first place since 2006 when we went to the Super Bowl.
All I'm going to say is I hope we never play the Commanders again. Because
we probably play them next year.
I have this running. For the last 2 years, to add the context to my quote, my thought here. Obviously, last year, the Bears lose on the Hail Mary to the Commanders and just pummel. Like I said, 10 straight losses after that. High draft pick, this and that. In return, Washington does fantastic. And they are one game away from a Super Bowl. If the Bears get there, I might cry. First of all, I want to make that very clear.
I'll be baffled.
I might be overly emotional. I don't know what I'll do if we get to that point. Flip-flop this year, a close game in Washington. The Bears win. They're now the hottest team in the NFC, it feels like. All the vibes are great. Top of the NFC North. Trying to get ourselves a playoff spot. It's never easy with the Bears, so I'm not acting like it's going to be now. And then return Washington right now on Sunday Night Football is playing. I haven't even looked at that game. I will watch it because it's football, but man, what a terrible Sunday Night Football game.
7-6. They are currently beating the Broncos.
Sure. Okay. Just wait till the fourth quarter, and then the Broncos will have the 8-minute drive, score a touchdown, and then a Mariota pick. Just feels inevitable. This
Probably
game feels nasty. Other one, bad for Caleb. The Cowboys look good.
Yeah, I was wrong. I will admit I was wrong at the Cowboys. I was like, there's no way. Like they played the Raiders. They were coming off the emotion. They beat the Eagles and they beat the Chiefs, which I think America won and lost with that win. They're happy to see the Chiefs struggle, but then it's it's the Cowboys. But I will admit I was wrong. I will admit I mean they still need some work to get them into the playoffs, but they have a chance Thursday when they play the Lions, who are limping at this point. I mean, they're trying to figure it out themselves.
My funniest thing of the week has been the Frank Ragnow physical.
Dude, they were so happy. I will say, Luke was like a kid on Christmas. He was like, "We're back," and now I feel so bad. I failed physical.
Well, I didn't know a grade 3 of anything existed. That is bad. Where it was did Frank Ragnow limp in with one leg?
I don't know. That was it. Had to have been
hamstring? That's
deep.
Nuts.
It was deep.
That's insane. But of course, a year where the Bears start to figure it out is a year that the Packers are also very good. This does feel like peak football in its own sense, at least for me personally, where the NFC North will come down to the greatest rivalry in the NFL, which is the Bears and the Green Bay Packers. And that's going to be fun. 2 fun matchups. I'm nervous as hell to play them. But like, that's cool. It is fun to see that rivalry
I'll be
have.
boots on the ground, Jerry. I'll be
I
boots
know.
on the
I'm
ground.
I'm very excited for you. I've never gone to a Bears Packers game. I've only gone to like maybe 1 or 2 Bears games growing up because Bears games are expensive. But no, you get to go see Lambeau. I'm very excited for your boots on the ground reporting to get the full experience, especially for your first NFL game. What a great one to pick, and what
It's
a great time
crazy.
for
It's
it
gonna
to
be awesome.
be that way. A lot of these games on the Sunday, it's good football outside. The one that has my eye here as someone who's been traveling all day, really 2 of them. Carolina, whoa.
Yeah.
Someone who watched that game, whoa. And then also Houston, what are we doing? I am so confused every week by Houston. I don't understand it. Can somebody explain it to me? I don't care that the Jets won. The Falcons also suck. I've just come to that conclusion. So, yeah, all these other games kind of make sense to me. Those 2 stand out like a sore thumb.
Well, I another one that stands out to me is the Dolphins are 5-7.
Sure.
I know they played the Saints, but it's just wacky that they're 5-7. I mean, the Texans are defensive led. I mean that is a fact. The Colts have maybe got exposed a little bit with you stop Jonathan Taylor, you can stop their team. I will say though, the schedule is tougher for the Colts. Daniel Jones is also playing on a broken leg, which is
Those
goofy.
clips of him trying to drop back.
So
Oh,
miserable. I feel so bad for him. Like it looks miserable,
yeesh.
miserable.
Hey, you want to talk about a kid who just spent his last year in Indiana and had led a nice little run for a football team? Hey, Riley! Is it
Yeah,
Riley Leonard time?
I don't know about all
I did not
that,
watch this game. I want to be very clear.
but I mean, he didn't play terrible. They did have a fumble. They were driving late, and they had a fumble by Josh Downs, kind of hurt them a little bit. So they turned the ball over. So uh, it's just weird that the Colts have gone all in this season, and it's crazy to think it's relying on a broken leg. But we'll see moving forward. Yeah, I mean, the NFL is the
There's
Panthers
a lot
is
of
just
Thursday games. It's a very weird week because
well,
of
it's
Thanksgiving.
gross. I
Yeah,
mean, the Panthers beating the Rams is crazy, but I mean, the Rams I feel like have one of these every year. It just happens to be the Panthers who are playing. They're playing good. They're playing better than anybody thought. The Steelers are reeling, 6-6, trying to figure themselves out. What helped them though is the Ravens lost. So you get a little wiggle room there. The Bills looked like the Bills. Seahawks, Vikings. I mean, that's exactly what I expected. The
the
Vikings
Vikings. Oh, that's
they're trying to figure themselves out. The Bucks get back on their winning ways, which is good, but they played the Cardinals. Sunday night's gross. Monday night's going to be gross. I mean, it's just one of those things that we're kind of trying. The teams that won it are figuring themselves out and winning it at these moments. And the teams I don't know. The Eagles baffle me. They really do. I will say their fans were very annoying to me because it was like they were booing and then they do something good. They cheer like crazy and then they're booing again. I'm like, just be like, you got things going on. You need to figure it out. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know.
this is sound weird. I respect the hell out of Philly fans because they will not appreciate or tolerate complacency. This is a good football team that's not playing like a good football team. And honestly, their offense needs some help. Um, there are questions here that I have about really, I think this comes down to the fact that their running game, I don't know where that problem
Well, Lane
is,
Johnson's hurt, and I guess when Lane Johnson doesn't play, they are awful.
but like this is the thing. The pass game's okay, but we're all adults. Jalen Hurts is a fine passer. He's not an elite passer. Nobody's been saying that. This offense is never built around that. We don't have to act like Jalen Hurts suddenly turned into Matthew Stafford, right? And supposed to hit crazy passes. But what was great about Jalen Hurts and this team is they were a run heavy team that could then pass the ball when they needed to, right? Jalen Hurts could get you a big gain. And then when you had time in the pocket and the pocket collapsed, he can gain you 7 yards. And then when you wanted to, you could break off a big one at Saquon. I think Saquon has been somewhat disappointing. It's hard to come off a 2,000 yard year just in general. But if the run game isn't going, that whole offense kind of stalls. Now I don't know if that's OC specific. I don't know if that's player personnel specific. That line has gone through some changes. Lane Johnson not being there is a big deal. But like if they don't get the run game going, I don't care if it AJ Brown touches the ball 45 times. It's like what your foundational piece is of an offense is not there. But I kind of respect Philly fans being like, we're not going to put up with this. We're supposed to be a good team. And now as Bears fans, we're like, oh my god, there's a team booing at somebody that's not us. This is crazy.
Well,
like,
it was just crazy though, because it's like I will say too, Kurt Herstring brought it up, is the designed runs for Jalen Hurts are way down compared to like the last couple of years, and he was like, it felt like him and Al Michaels had a better idea what was wrong in the Eagles than the Eagles coaching staff, which is baffling to me, because then they'd be like on the sideline, and Jalen Hurts is like he always has the same, like, I give him credit, he like no matter what's wrong, like what's going on, he always has a stoic face, which is what everybody wants from a quarterback. But it's like they're like quarterback coach or their coaches are like looking on the tablets being like, oh, like it's like you can't figure it out. Like I don't know. It was just funny to me watching the game to be like, Herbstreit be like, well, they don't do this and they don't do that. And it's like, it feels like he knows what's wrong and they don't.
Well, what's funny is AJ Brown kind of gives you like old school receiver vibes, which I kind of appreciate. We haven't had a receiver. We've had some receivers like this, but we haven't had this kind of feels like since like a Randy Moss even, where it's like, dude, I need the damn ball if we want to win. And he's starting to get the ball, but it's like at a certain point, it's not all AJ Brown, and nor do I think he's as wrong as he wants to give credit for. Is it funny to watch a man kind of single-handedly start sabotaging the locker room? Yes. And I do think one thing that has been a weakness of this team is that in years, this is not the first time AJ Brown has been like, hey, center of attention, borderline locker room cancer vibes. But you know what they did last year when he gave them problems? They still just ran the same damn offense.
Yeah.
Like one thing I do worry about is that is the offensive coordinator, I think it's Patullo, being like, all right, AJ, you want the ball? Fine, we'll get you the ball. It's like, no, you like everything has to come in phases here, but this is a team that's supposed to that kept their core, that kept everything together, that is not performing well. And I think I think it's the most infuriating part. And, like I've said with tons of people like the Bears season, right? This is why this game is so funny and is the outcome just brings so many different emotions out. Bears are playing without his money. All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Honestly, the Bears could lose the rest of the games this season. It's a success for me. Honest to God.
No, it is.
Like
it'll be a disappointment, but it's like, whoa, the fact that we have that feeling again is crazy.
Caleb, I tell you, we're sitting in this spot right now with the start of the season. You might hit me.
No, I'd been like, dude, at
you're
this
drunk,
point,
like get out of here. Like
at this point, I'm worried about who we're going to draft in the top 10. And
I haven't looked at a mock draft. That's awesome, and it's a little poverty franchise vibes that I'm kind of saying here. I understand, joke is needed, but like, the two clashes of like a fan base that's so battered down from years of just piss poor football versus a team that has the world in front of them, that has all these talented pieces that are not working together. And then the team that has nothing to lose playing like it, and the team that has everything to lose playing like it is, I think, narratively wildly fascinating. And I will say this, dude, the Bears run game is legit. Like it is wild to me that how good it's been. And that's another thing that I'm very curious about long-term with Philly is I think the Bears have given a game plan. I don't know how deep of a game plan, because I think the Bears run game, I think, is arguably the best in the league, if not top 3. On how you can beat this Eagles team, which is, force them to throw by taking 6 or 7 minute drives where you just pound the ball. Like, Monangai a good running back. He's not a 7th rounder. That was a steal. DeAndre Swift's a fine running back. The gaps those guys are getting, you can give to a lot of folks. Like, that is impressive. It has been the difference maker because Caleb Williams has been fine. He made that one great, this is Caleb Williams, most Bears quarterback ever. He turns around and does that pass to Cole Kmet. That's a hard pass to pull off. He puts it right in the money and then somehow gets a screen pass intercepted. Does the hard things well, the easy things are hard. Most Bears thing ever.
This team is the most Bears thing ever, where it's like defense, which is like depleted, but still somehow makes plays and does what they need to do. They maybe killed the tush push, which is great. And then, running the ball, like that, it's the most like Bears formula ever. And it's just working for Ben Johnson. And we now have a quarterback that, like you said, can make some throws that were never been able to be made, still makes mistakes, but it just has not come back to hurt us yet. I don't know. It's been a fun season. I hate the Eagles, and so it's great to beat them.
It's an alliance. I hope we can bring it back. We've tried our best, Eagles Nation, and so I still have love for you guys, especially because you guys took down the Chiefs last year. So that got me a lot of goodwill. We are so hard to the point where Jess is thinking about getting the Bears sweatshirt for Christmas.
Wow.
Guys, this is big. We might. I did warn her. I want this to be very clear to all the folks who listen.
Returning fans now.
I said, hey, this is not for the week. I'm like,
Nah,
this has been a year that I won't forget. Like, I've been talking about this year, like 2018, and like everyone talks about like summer 2016. That's all I'm
yeah.
talking about this bear season.
Yeah.
Like, I'll
No.
never forget summer
I was
2016. I already talking about
freshman
all
in
the
college.
kids that
I have not had this much fun since I was a freshman in college. The
dude,
enjoyment that I had in my
like
life.
that is how I'm talking about this team. So I wanted that. I did give her that fair warning. I don't want to. I want to think I'm leading her astray. But no, this is house money, and the only thing I worry about is last time the Bears looked this good. God, the ending was painful.
Yeah, and they brought it up, and I.
Well, of course, it was the Eagles. That was the game.
It was the Eagles. It was Al Michaels. I get it all, but it was just like, really?
No,
Really?
no. That's
We're not past this.
man. It's I love this team to my heart, and it is fun to see as somebody who grew up in the burbs to see the city come together because when the Bears are good, it's a fun time to be around. My overall joke is that you want violence in the city of Chicago to drop, have the Bears and the Bulls be good. You'll be fine.
Everybody be good. It'd be great.
We can't do all that. Dude, in the only thing I hope is that we're not doing the 1 year thing with the Bears like 2018, where it's like, oh, this is great, and then it goes downhill. And it's just weird that the Bears have a fun offense. That's I think what's been the most like crazy to me. Yeah, it's fun, dude. Like the Winter Circle's giving out free hot dogs. Ben Johnson pulled off the shirt to do so. Like
It's crazy.
this is a team that's very much embracing the city, and I think that's a lot of fun too. So no, good vibes team this year. I hope we never play Washington though, because if that's going to determine our season in like week 4, oh, I hate that.
Well, I will say too, you got to capitalize on your window. When your window's open in the NFL, you have to capitalize on it. Very rarely do we see the Patriots and do we see the Chiefs for a consistent around a bunch of different teams. So I don't, like you said, to your point, hopefully this isn't a 1 year thing, but you do have to capitalize on your window and take advantage of things that are in front of you. But that win against the Eagles was big because like all I heard about the Bears talk was like, yeah, they have 8 wins, but who have they beaten? Now they beat the Eagles, and it's like, okay, so yeah, going into Green Bay is going to be fun to watch that game. But yeah, I mean, Jerry, this has been a show of a lot going on. I will say too, I didn't make a graphic for it because I was like, we already have a jam-packed show, but what the hell's going on at Penn State is baffling to me right now because supposedly the guy they wanted from JMU may be going to UCLA. So this whole thing is crazy. They think they're going to get Kalen DeBoer. Maybe that's what people are saying.
You want to talk about something that'd be a seismic shake? It is what happens if Georgia beats Bama in the SEC title game, knocks them out of the playoff, and then Kalen DeBoer goes to Penn State. There you go. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I saw some names of like percentage of who they thought the coaches were going to be. Nobody I thought would go to Penn State. So Kalani Sitake's name was in there. Josh Heupel's name was in there. I told you guys about Jeff Brom like a month ago, and I think that's kind of cooled off based off of what Louisville has done. But I don't know. They are kind of in this circle of like, don't fire somebody if you don't really know like what you have, and I don't know. It's just really weird. It makes me feel like they want an assistant on a team that is potentially going to the playoff, an assistant that potentially has a team in the Big Ten championship game, an assistant that is really good at developing wide receivers, is what it feels like.
Brian Dable, welcome to Penn State.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. But it kind of feels like they're waiting on somebody. So I don't know. It's just maybe something big happens. It's just really weird how they've been open. I want to say like close to being the longest. And we don't really know what's happening with it. But hey, you never know.
Penn State hiring a prominent coordinator from Ohio State, that's never been problematic. Checks notes.
We will see what happens moving forward. You never really know. But yeah, jam-packed. Lane Kiffin finally to LSU. I'm glad that's over with and done with. For Marty Smith, for Ross Dellinger, all those guys that have been on that story. It's been fantastic. It's been fun to watch. And now we wait and see kind of what happens next moving forward. Tuesday night's a big night when it comes to college football and everything that we have coming forward. Oh, I have our picks real quick. I'll say that before we get off of here. Jerry went 5-3 last week. Trevor went 5-3. I went 6-2. I mean, I told you guys this was the week to get me, and you didn't.
I went about 500. That's all I asked for.
Jerry's now 49-44. Trevor's 52-53, and I've hit 60-45.
I will admit I did pick some of these games. Like I put Pitt over Miami because I didn't want to put up with Miami anymore. So my picks have very much become either chaos driven or it feels like a lock. That's like the two ways I go.
I feel like you and Trevor picked exactly the same.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I didn't want to put up with Pitt. That was one of them. No, that's the one I remember the most. I was like, damn it, I want to Pitt to win, just so we didn't have to have the Miami discourse. But I know you guys will have that in the midweek. There's plenty more to get to. This is a busy time of year, and then when we go back to the summer, we're like, oh my god, this is all this. Then we have 90-minute podcast on the Sunday in the middle of Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, no, we'll figure it out. Me and Trevor are back Wednesday, and hopefully at that point he's not snowed out. He's not snowed in. We'll figure that out. And then Sunday we really have to figure something out because I'll be in Green Bay, but we will get that down pat. We always seem to figure it out somehow.
We're not doing a 4-hour show, Caleb. I'm warning
you. No, we're not.
We're not doing the draft over again.
No, we're not. I just have to.
I'm telling you on air.
I just have to figure out like what we do, which I think maybe we'll probably just go live like right after the selections are made, and we'll just talk about that, and then that'll probably just be the show. So we'll figure it out there. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll be back.